What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr War Games, and today I am bringing you part number 3 of course, Anime Month, and the one that won the first 5Ds polls was, of course, Rose Dragons. So I'm going to give you an update to this profile, a bit of shout out as inspiration to Team Forbidden. The kind of inspiration I got was using Dark Ruler No More, and I'll explain that as we go through the profile. Also, shout out to Joe, who helped kind of put this together, but this is mainly an update from my previous build that I did back in April. With all of that out of the way, let's crack straight in to the updated Rose profile. So, of course, we're going to start off with the best card, and that's Rox Rose Dragon. So this is, of course, the main card that you want to be going for. This is, if it is normal or special, you get to add one card that specifically lists Black Rose in its text. So that lets you add another Rose monster or any of the Rose spells and traps, which allow you to pretty much revive back monsters, which is kind of what you need to do. While this card is in the graveyard, if a face-up Rose Dragon monster or plant synchro monster you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can add this card to your hand. Only use the effect once per turn. Then, of course, we've got triple White Rose. If only this card said when this card is normal or special, but sadly it doesn't. It says when this card is normaled, you get to special a Rose Dragon monster from your hand or grave except itself. Only use each effect once per turn. If you control a Dragon Tuner or Plant Tuner, you can special summon this card from the hand. So you can special summon it for free, but it won't trigger. Go figure. If this card is sent to graveyard as synchro material, you can send one level 4 or higher plant monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is great because you start setting up your combo pieces that can be banished, that can then help you get a Ruddy Rose turn 1 as well. We've then got 2 Red Rose Dragon. So if this card is sent to graveyard as synchro material, you can special summon one Rose Dragon monster from your hand or deck. Hello, Rox Rose, except itself. Then, if this was sent for the synchro summon of a Black Rose Dragon or a plant synchro monster, you can also add a Frozen Rose or Blossom of the Darkened Rose from your deck to your hand. So again, additional extenders, additional searching pieces, that is all you really need. Onto the plants, we are, of course, playing triple Lone Fire. Pretty straightforward and simple on that one. We are playing triple Rose Princess. Now, the reason this card is actually quite good in this deck, less so for if only your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon it. I mean, that's kind of cool. But in this particular version, I'm actually going to use it for its second effect. So it's treated as a tuner when it is summoned that way, and you can only special summon it once per turn. But you can discard this card to add a White Rose Cluster from your deck to your hand. Now, the White Rose Cluster is a field spell that lets you special summon. If you control no monsters, you can special summon a Rose Dragon monster or plant monster from your hand. So the idea is they want to try and get Rox Rose, we want to try and get Red Rose, we want to try and get into a Black Rose without using up our normal summon, and this is one way of doing it. We've then got the fairies, so we've got double Dark Rose Fairy. So if a tuner or tuners is special summoned except during damage state, you get to special summon this card for free from your hand. If it's in the graveyard, you can send one card from your hand or field to the graveyard to place it on the top or bottom of your deck. So again, it has recyclability, which is really nice. For the one-offs, we've got the one Carrot Man, World Carrot Weight Champion. So if this card's in the graveyard, you get to send a plant-type monster from your hand or face up from your field to the graveyard, except himself to special summon it. You can only use the effect once per turn, but it does give you a free level 4 monster just by sacking off a dead plant in your hand. Obviously, Spore, if it's in the graveyard, you can banish one other plant type from the graveyard to special summon it from the graveyard and increase its level by the level of that banished monster. You can only activate each effect once per duel on this one, but again, it's just a nice free summon back. I'm still playing the one Stay Sailor. Now, it has a quick effect to target one face-up monster you control, send one other plant monster, so if you target something else, it can send it itself. And if it would be destroyed by battle or card effect this turn, it is not. And if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can send one level 5 or lower plant from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. So the idea is, as long as you've got another target on the board, use her effect to target said monster, send this one to the grave, to then Foolish Burial either the World Champion Carrot or Spore, and it's going to give you an additional free extender that can help play around with your synchro plays as well. Keeping in mind that Spore is a very nice tuner. We've then got the one Rose Girl, so if a face-up plant monster or monsters you control is sent to the graveyard, except during the damage step, you special summon this card from the hand. If a plant monster is on the field and this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. So again, recursions and ability for free extenders. Talking about free extenders, Parallel XZs. Why is this so good? Well, technically, part of a lot of your 2-card combo, which is basically just getting 2 monsters to the board in one way or another, can ultimately lead you into a range of Link monsters. Whether that be Firebrax, Hieratic Seals, Crossroads Dragon, or Aroma Mage Jasmine, it then allows you to summon out Parallel. By then summoning out Parallel, it gives you 2 monsters on the board that, yes, could be used as synchro material because they do drop to level 4s, but ideally what you're going to want to try and do, especially if you bring out the Jasmine, is you're going to want to go into your Rika Queen as it is generic. You could then use Rika Queen's effect, which we'll speak about a little bit later on, but then you also use Jasmine's effect to tribute said Rika Queen and give yourself a Sacred Beast Hyperion. Continuing on, the spicy engine that Joe has mentioned to me that I've used in my previous one is the generator engine. Now, I know Mardell right now is quite expensive, so if you don't have this engine, you can go back to the good old Red Rose or Bloody Rose Witch and the Black Rose Witch with your fairy, Rose Fairy as another level to play around with. But the idea behind this is it gives you either a second turn board after you've broken your opponent's board to build up and negate, or it gives you the ability to defend a little bit more. So keeping in mind that Aroma Mage Jasmine will tribute a plant monster. I believe it's a plant monster, let me just double check. You tribute 1 monster this card points to special summon a plant monster from your deck in defense position. So the idea is that you would tribute off the Rika Queen. Rika Queen would then trigger effect to give you the Hyperion. Your Jasmine will then give you a Lone Fire. Lone Fire can then tribute itself off for a Mardell. Mardell would then give you the field spell. You then activate the generator field spell so that when your opponent draws for their turn, you get a free special summon of Ha and then fill up the remaining zones with tokens, giving you an automatic Omni Negate. Plus, you're going to have a negate off the Hyperion Dragon. Not to mention, if you did Dark Ruler no more, you've probably already cleared their main board and their graveyard with the Bloody Rose Dragon. Now for the hand trap, the only hand trap we're playing is the Gamma, purely because this strategy of this deck is to go second. So the idea is that you want to try and protect all of your discards. You want to try and bait out your opponent's cards as much as possible. Dark Ruler no more can be activated whether you have monsters or not. So Gamma-ing one of your opponent's monsters gives you a free level 8 synchro or gives you 2 free monsters on the board for fodder later on down the line. Clearing this all up, let's move on to the spells. So, of course, the main strategy of this is to be able to turn off your opponent's board by going second. So you do want to play Dark Ruler no more. Now, you don't mind about not being able to do damage because it's going to be a little bit more tricky for you to OTK. But the idea is that through Black Rose Dragon and then Ruddy Rose Dragon, you've cleared your opponent's board, you've cleared off their graveyard, you've left them with very minimal resource apart from what they have in their hand. And then whatever they do have in their hand, that's where other cards such as your Hyperion and of course the Generator are going to come into play, because they're pretty much going to negate those cards they're going to be able to play. And then your next turn board, you're still going to have your resource in order to make additional Ruddy Roses or Black Roses or anything like that. Not to mention the Hyperion plus the 2 Generators that are going to stay on the board in order to give your opponent a full-on smackdown. Then we're playing 2 Basil Rose Shoot and the 1 Frozen Rose. I love the look of both these cards. Like I've said in the previous video, I love to see this as a foil. So this one is special summon a Rose Dragon monster from your hand or grave in defense. If this set card is destroyed, you can target one of your Black Rose or one monster that specifically lists that card in its text that is banished or in the graveyard and special summon it. Frozen Rose is you get to send a face-up monster you control to the graveyard to apply the following effect. If you send a plant during the end phase of this turn, you draw 2 cards and discard 1. If you send a non-plant, you get to add a level 4 or lower plant monster from your deck to your hand. So again, that is how you get into your free extenders, by sending your dragons. So there may be times where you've got 1 plant, 1 dragon, and you need to get 2 plants on the board. You send the non-dragon, get the free plant extender, bring it down. That's your Aroma Mage Jasmine, off you go. Then, of course, we've got 3 one-offs in the field spells. So we've got the 1 Boss Stage, the 1 White Rose, and the 1 Black Garden. Now, Black Garden gives you the ability to extend that a little bit further. Should you need to start reviving your stuff in the graveyard, you do just need to be very careful of your mathematics behind this. Now, Rox Rose, amazingly, is 2 tokens worth, but then you need to look at all of your other cards as well and make sure that they are in multiples of 800. Other than that, you're not going to be able to revive them back. Keeping in mind that both Black Rose Dragon and Ruddy Rose Dragon are multiples of 8, so you can keep going under the Black Rose Garden and bring them back. Then the last 3 elves that we've got is the 1 Called by the Grave, the 1 Monster Reborn, and the 1 World Legacy Guard Dragon. Obviously, a secondary Monster Reborn for any of your dragons, a generic Monster Reborn for everything you need, specifically level 4 or lower on this one, and then Called by to stop any hand traps that might hurt you. Keeping in mind that it depends on what your local environment is like as to whether or not you might want Lightning Storms, you might want Twin Twisters, you might want to adapt the strategy of this deck going second to being a go first deck. And again, that is where you'll rely a little bit heavier on the generator engine. I wouldn't put more into it. It would just mean that my strategy to get to it would be a little bit more consistent. Moving on to the extra deck, we do play one of the most beautiful secrets I've seen for a long, long time, and that is Ruddy Rose Dragon. It is a bit disappointing that this is going up in price, I believe, because of Soul Swords, but any Rose player should have already been able to pick up at least one of this. I will be looking to pick up a second one just because there are times when you might want a second. However, it's very rare you're going to go through to a second, but when you do, if it is synchro summoned, you get to banish all cards from the graveyards. Keep that in mind, graveyards, so it does include yours as well. Then, if this card was synchro summoned using Black Rose Dragon or a plant synchro monster as material, you destroy all other cards on the field. So it gets to do a Black Rose effect, which is why when you summon the Black Rose, you don't technically need to activate its effect, because you can just then synchro up into the Ruddy Rose. Ruddy Rose will do that job for you. And then off of the back of that is when your opponent activates a card or effect that would destroy a card or cards, quick effect, tribute this card, negate the activation, then special summon one Black Rose from your extra deck or graveyard. So you get to bring back the Black Rose that you would have used to synchro summon into this, unless you banished all of the cards from the graveyard. Speaking of Black Rose, we are rocking 2 Black Rose Dragon and of course the 1 Moonlight. The Moonlight is not a necessity, I just like having the family complete. So keep that in mind that you do not need to mandatory play Rose, and you can take this out for any other kind of synchro target, link play, or anything other card that you would like to use. Speaking of which, the other synchros we play is the 1 Dawn Dragster, the 1 Omega to come off of the back of the Gamma package, but if you're not a fan of that, you would then adapt this to your personal taste. And then, of course, we've got the 1 Savage Dragon. Again, can come off the back of the Psyframe package, but you need to make sure you get a link in the graveyard. Otherwise, it's quite pointless. And then for the Garden Rose, we are playing the new Garden Rose Flora. I say new, it came out in Levo. And the 1 Garden Rose Maiden. Now, obviously, Garden Rose Maiden will let you bring back one of your dragons once it's been synchro, search you out your Black Garden, and then get another monster on the board to then use it as synchro material, and off you go. Keeping in mind, it does need a tuner. On the other hand, the Garden Rose Flora is a tuner. So what it does give you the ability is you can target 1 card in your field zone, and we are playing free, keep that in mind. Destroy it and then special summon to its controller's field 1 Rose token, which is a level 2, giving you instant access to a synchro level 7. In a tap position, also you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn except synchros. Only use the effect once per turn. Once per chain during your opponent's main phase, you can, quick effect immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon using this card you control. So again, the idea is, if you don't want to Black Rose that exact turn, you do have the ability to Black Rose the next turn. On top of that, if you wanted to change up your strategy, you could play more synchros that would interact with your opponent when they are synchro summoned. Stuff like Satellite Warrior is also a very good option to pretty much board wipe when you want to try and synchro summon, but it does need a bit of a pay up because it does need you to have synchros in the graveyard in order to activate and resolve to a maximum potential that way. For the XYZs, like I said, we've got the 1 Sacred Beast Hyperion, I like to call it Hyperion, and then the Rika Queen Strenna. So Rika Queen Strenna is you detach a material from this card to target a plant monster or Rika card in your graveyard and add it to the hand. If this card with XYZ materials is tributed, you get to special summon a rank 5 or higher plant XYZ from your extra deck or grave. Then you can attach this card to it as material. So the idea is you can detach, regain a bit of resource, tribute it with the Aromasary Jasmine to then trigger its effect, and that's effect. This one gives you the Hyperion for free and lets it attach itself, so it's got a monster negate during your opponent's turn. And then the Jasmine gives you the ability of tributing this to give you a Lone Fire, and that's how you then go into the combo of getting into your generators. If you want to make this combo more consistent, then a card that you could look into would be the Predaplant engine, because then straight away you go get the Cobra and then go into Jasmine using both of those as plants. That then gives you instant fusion. You can then activate instant fusion to bring out your sea monster Theseus. So if you do get another monster on the board, that can then ultimately give you Halifibrax plays. Otherwise, Jasmine can tribute it. Specifically, if your life points are higher though, so keep that in mind. This card, any plant monster it points to cannot be destroyed by battle. However, you can tribute 1 monster this card points to special summon a plant monster from your deck in defense. Only use the effects once per turn, and then once per turn, if you gain life points, add a plant monster from your deck to your hand. So again, you can adapt your playstyle to make this more relevant, but the idea is you just want to be able to make it Parallel XZs, make Rika detach, bring back one of the plants you've used to make it. Effective Jasmine, tribute this off you go. Now, keeping that in mind, that's where you might want to go back to the Black Witch of the Black Forest and Black Rose and stuff like that, Red Rose, purely because it does give you access to more plants. But keeping that in mind, a special summon of Rose Princess is 1 free Rose, and then straight away you have the ability of your Carrot Champion and of course your Spore alongside your Stay Sailor and Rose Gale. So that's how you're going to get to your 2 plants. Because this is a Rose Dragon build, it's not all reliant around this card, but if that is a strategy you want to go for, you do have the option to do it. Then for the last 3 Link 2s, you've got the 1 Cross Rose, the 1 Hallie Firebrax, and the 1 Hieratic Seals. So the Hieratic Seals is the opposite of the Jasmine. If you've not got 2 plants, but you've got 2 dragons, you go Hieratic Seals, and this is a major pain in the backside to deal with. Hallie Firebrax gives you the ability to get to one of your tuners for free from your deck, but keep that in mind, it's a little bit tricky to constantly pump out and give you the maximum rewards in comparison to what else you might want to make. Crossroads Dragon is 2 monsters with different types, plants and dragons, good to rock and roll. During the main phase, quick effect, you tribute this card and 1 plant monster to special summon a Rose Synchro monster or plant Synchro monster from your extra deck. It is treated as a Synchro summon. If a monster or monsters you control is destroyed by card effect while this card is in the graveyard, except during the damage step, banish this card to special summon a Rose Dragon monster from your graveyard. Only use the effect once per turn. So again, this is a way of how you can cheese out your... Oh, picked up at the same time. Your God and Rose, Flora and Maidens, and any of your other Synchro monsters as well. So it needs to be played. And you could possibly sacrifice Hallie Firebrax if you want to. But that's the best thing about this particular deck, is it has so many different alternate strategies that you can adapt it to your personal playstyle and as you see fit. But like I've said, the most successful and the kind of most interesting version is Dark Ruler No More. Purely because you have so many low cost combos that get you where you need to go. It's very nice to kind of move it. Now, I will show you a very simple combo that, again, massive shout out to Team Forbidden on this one. So I saw this at the end of their video, go check that out. But the idea is you just need to get like 2 roses on the board. And the example that they used was white rose with red rose. And this is how you're going to get maximum value out of everything. Now, if you're going first, it's going to be less effective. It will just give you a Ruddy Rose. But then that's where you're going to end up with 2 dragons on the board. So you've got Hieratic Seals and depending on what else your hand is. Going second, you Dark Ruler to turn the board off, and that's where you're going to pretty much wipe up. And what we mean by this is you're going to normal summon your White Rose, it will trigger its effect to special summon a Rose from the hand. That's going to give you your Red Rose Dragon. Straight away, you've got your Synchro for level 7. That is, of course, going to be your Black Rose Dragon. Now, you do have the option, if you want to Black Rose nuke the board, but ideally you don't want to at this point. You want to be triggering the effects of Red Rose, because if it is sent to the graveyard as Synchro material for a Black Rose Dragon or plant, you get to also add a Frozen Rose, so that is a great start already. And if it is sent to as Synchro material, you get to special summon a Rose Dragon from your deck. You can also then trigger the effect of White Rose to send a level 4 or higher plant from the deck to the grave. So straight away from that particular combo, you're going to special summon out your Rocks Rose, you're going to search out your Frozen Rose, and you're also going to send a plant to the graveyard. And one of the best ones can be Carrot Champion because it is a level 4. But you do also send Stay Sailor if you want to, because you are going to use it as banish fodder and kind of move from there. So we've got a Frozen Rose, which can give us the ability to draw 2, ditch 1, but it also gives us the ability to add a level 4 or lower plant. Keeping in mind that adding one of those level 4 or lower plants does give you the ability to pretty much free summon themselves. So with Rocks Rose hitting the board, you then get to trigger that effect as well. And in order to do that, you are also able to add yourself, wherever it is. Where are you? Always hiding. Last card, I suppose. A Basil Rose Shoot, which is basically a free Monster Reborn. So off the back of this, you've got a level 3 tuner, you've got your level 7 Rose, you go, cool, thank you very much. Synchro into your Ruddy Rose. Ruddy Rose then has the ability, if you wanted to banish all cards in the graveyard, and when you've got a Monster Reborn, you don't really want to do that. You could also trigger the Black Rose effect as well to banish a plant type monster in your graveyard, to then target a defense position monster your opponent draws and change that target to face-out attack, but like, who's gonna do that? So then off the back of this, you've also got the ability to pretty much, because it was made with Black Rose Dragon, you get to destroy all other cards on the field. So as long as you're keeping these in hand, you're good to rock and roll. Now I just want to check. Yeah, so obviously by Foolish Burial and the Stay Sailor, you get to Foolish Burial another card, but that's not really relevant to what we're doing here. So then what you've got here is you've got the Basil Shoot. You're going to activate this. You bring back a Rose Dragon monster. You can save it for your opponent's turn to bring back a Rocks Rose, and that's going to give you another search. Or you can bring back White Rose, anything like that. But you bring back your Black Rose Dragon. Cool, great, let's rock and roll. Do the damage, do whatever you need to do. That's gone to the grave. Stay Sailor Scent. You've still got 3 more cards to play around with. And then let me just double check this. Yeah, so if you had a plant type, you can bring back your World Champion. And then ultimately what you do is you go... Obviously, under Dark Ruler, you're just playing to clear your opponent's board off, which you've already cleared. So you're not going to attack with these unless you're not using Dark Ruler. So the idea is you bring this back. You can special summon back the Carrot Champion if you've got a plant in your hand. Good to rock and roll. And then that's where you can start making your Synchro plays if you want to. You can also make your Crossroads Dragon. There's just different routes you can then play from that point on. But the whole idea is that by going into your Ruddy Rose, you've got the ability to negate something. You've also got the ability to clear the opponent's board off and the graveyard should you wish. And then you've got 2 recursion cards. So straight away from that 3-card combo at the start, technically 2 if you're not reliant on the Dark Ruler no more, you've been able to clear board and you've been able to set up a recursion or you've been able to set up a search or draw or anything like that as well. So there's still a lot more to be done. Obviously, it's not going to be breaking the meta, but it's still incredibly good, and I have a lot of fun with this. And like I said on my previous profile, this is probably one of the best looking decks around. I really wish this was a Ghost. I really wish it was an Ultimate. I would love to pick one up from Japan as well, just to kind of see how they look. But I absolutely love the deck, and I even went out of my way to, annoyingly, the Rocks Rose doesn't have a different one, but I went out of my way to make sure that I got a Blue Rose Dragon with blue text, a Red Rose Dragon with basically purple text, which is like red text, and then I specifically made sure the White Rose Dragon was gold text, because just kind of, you know, it's fun. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, guys. Continue to enjoy the anime month as well. We will bring you more 5D profiles as long as GX, Zexal, original OG, Link Vrains, you name it, we'll bring it. With all of that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Stay safe. And, of course, happy dueling.